Hi, folks. Rick here. Facebook Live once again. Okay, on this Tuesday. What is today? The 7th? Is today 7/7? I believe it is. All right. So, anyway, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. Today we have a very, very wonderful guest from the lovely state of Arizona. He's from actually a little town called Goodyear. Now, if you don't know where Goodyear is, well, let's put it this way: it's not the end of the world, but you can see the end of the world from Goodyear, Arizona. I'm only kidding, Eric. Eric Saenz. Yeah, all right, all right. Eric, tell them a little about yourself. There's a couple of reasons why I ask you to do this, but tell them. I want you to tell them about what you did before real estate, and then give us a little history of since you've been in real estate, please.
Well, I've kind of been in real estate for many years actually. I met my wife in real estate school in 2005, but wasn't an agent. I owned a repo company, car repos, trucks, boats, semis even, for about a decade actually in Albuquerque, New Mexico. That's where I'm originally from. One day we bought some real estate here in Arizona about 2011 when the market crashed, and we wanted to come here pretty much ever since. So we put a 2-year plan which eventually turned into 6 years. But we eventually made our way down here, my wife and I, my family, sold the repo gig, and have jumped into real estate ever since.
Yeah. And you started right off, and you can't do it now, but you will be able to do it shortly. Door knocking, right? You started door knocking right away. Tell them a little about. Well, first off, when you door knock a house with your old job, it's a little different experience than when you door knock a house now, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So before, door knocking was a lot more intimidating, and especially in New Mexico, it could be a lot more intimidating than probably around here, especially Goodyear. So I'd go door knock somebody's house and ask them for their keys or to get their stuff out of their vehicle, which is not always. It's awkward for one.
Humbling experience.
Yeah, it's super sketchy in some parts of town, and luckily, and for us, we've all were very professional, very nice folks. That we really didn't create too much issue. We never got shot at or anything like that. We were very fortunate, but we always maintained professionalism. But you never know. You just never know.
Right, right.
So now, when I got into real estate, I didn't. My SOI, my sphere of influence is I didn't have one here in Arizona. I knew two people. So when I started doing some research as to how I can get some clients, get some contracts going, I ended up watching some videos, and it seemed like the majority of people were still thinking the door knocking is a predominantly great way to focus on building a business, at least from my standpoint. So I started door knocking one day. It was a lot easier, more friendly than door knocking I was used to by far.
Yeah.
I tried that for a little while, and I started tweaking a couple of things. I started thinking about maybe doing door knocks, but doing primarily canceled and expired homes, due to the fact that the homeowners were already, they had their hat in the ring already. They were already doing something with real estate. So it was prior to that, for a little while, I tried just picking a neighborhood, doing some farming and doing door knocking. But what I found out in that aspect is that I ran into a housekeeper, nanny, tenant, random situations until, so I had to go through too many more doors to get to the landlord or the owner of the property. So I decided it was best for me to start doing expired and canceled, since they were already doing something. So statistically speaking, it was a higher percentage of an opportunity, a higher percentage of a success rate at that point. So I started doing that. As you know, Rick, it took me almost 7 months for me to do my first transaction.
Right.
So in 7 months, I went, first of all, you get a lot of emotions. You go up and down because you're realizing whether you made the right decision or not to join this business, right? Second, I was trying to find myself as far as what kind of agent I would like to become, and eventually I thought that the best thing for me would be to be a listing agent, predominantly a listing agent. So that I did that, and I tried that for about 3 months. I did something else that I just was going to classes. I didn't really know what I was doing. So when I finally decided I was going to go full force with door knocking, after about a month and a half, I got a listing. Then I got another listing. Before I knew it, I still hadn't had any transactions, but I had 5 listings. From 1 month to the next, I had 0 transactions. Next thing now, I was under contract on 7 transactions over a period of probably about 15 days. So um, I'm glad I stuck with it because I could have easily given up after so many times. 7 months is a long time without a transaction. I don't know if a lot of us don't understand what it does that to your psyche, right? It does that to your
Right.
mental stability as far as your job goes. So I was lucky enough to have a supporting family to keep telling me to not give up, and I'm glad I didn't. And eventually, I went from 0 transactions in 7 months to 15 transactions in 5 months. So that full year eventually came together. Not ideally, but it worked out, and now I'm very blessed.
Yeah, you closed. What did you close? 15 or wasn't it 17 your first year? You closed.
Yeah, eventually it was 7. You're right. It was 17 transactions my first year. So to go from 0 to 60, I guess, in 5 months, or 0 to 17 in 5 months was a blessing. B, what it does for me, or it did for me mentally, as far as being able to stay in the game and maintaining positive attitude. Because
Right.
once you start going and teetering into negative land, it's really hard for me. I think it would have been really hard to overcome that.
Yeah.
Um, so I was very blessed that I stuck through it, and it worked out very well. And I credit the majority of that to door knocking.
Yeah, and tell them your numbers, like because I remember some of your numbers, but you probably remember all of them. Your number. So you primarily knocked canceled and expireds in 2 towns, Goodyear and Avondale, and I think you said Litchfield Park a little too, right?
Small Tolleson a little bit, which is all within 8 to 12 miles from where I live in the office.
Right. And give them your numbers. How many you knocked a day, and how many times you went, and you know,
Well, the first month, the very first time I went door knocking, and I say the first time because it took me about 2.5 weeks. I door knocked like 380 houses plus. I got nowhere, and then eventually I went to the door knocking of canceled and expires. I door knocked another 211, I believe. So I'm nearly at the 600 mark until finally somebody said yes. It was actually like 670 some door knocks before somebody said, "Yeah, come to my house, and I'll give you the opportunity of a listing appointment." From that point forward, the next time I had to door knock, it was I say only, but it was nearly 400. So I'm at over 1,000 door knocks at this point, and I've gotten 2 listings, which mathematically wasn't ideal. And then from there, went from about 311, and then to about 260. Present day today, I would have to door knock on an average of 156 people before I can get into somebody's home and ask them if get a listing appointment. And a lot of people say, well, that's just a ton of work to get 156 would take me roughly about a week. And if I can get a listing a week, I'm in phenomenal shape.
yeah,
Personally, my goal will be 2 a month. I will exceed that. Now, I can't always do the 150 a week, but I do my absolute best and pride myself on making the time and being available to still making it a priority for me to do between 20 and 25 per day.
yeah.
A little bit more challenging in these times, but it's not impossible.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, especially in Arizona, you guys, you have the most, probably the lenient. And then, anyway, I don't want to get into the pandemic because everybody knows what's going on there. Okay. So when you go to the house, so you knock on an average 25 a day, and I've talked to you. Some days you knock 40, some days you knock 15, but you average close to 25 a day. What do you bring? What's your script? All that good stuff.
It depends on what's the number on the house, meaning how many times I've been there in the past. So if it's day number 1, it's my first attempt. Berkshire has phenomenal tools, and I tell this to my old broker, which is Susan Kramer, which is one of the most instrumental and influential individuals I've ever come across, period. But for sure, when
Great.
it comes to my real estate business, she was I don't know where things would have landed had it not been for her. So a lot of kudos to Susan Kramer. But Berkshire Hathaway has a phenomenal system of educating newer, older, veteran agents, and I was probably more on the newer side, even though I've done many flips over the years. I was a new agent, so they have many tools, many tools. One of the tools I was utilizing is called Buy Side. It's in the Resource Center. It's a fantastic tool. It gives you like a mini appraisal or evaluation of the home. It gives you other pretty great tools like a heat map as to how many people are clicking in that particular neighborhood, how many people Berkshire Hathaway has in their database that are looking for a house with similar demographics. So I take that with me. It's between 5 and 6 pages, depends on how many people are interested in the home. I put some business cards in it. I put it in an envelope. Whether they're home or not home, I write a personal note to them. I go in the tax in Monsoon, which is the tax where we can see the taxes of the home and the homeowner, and I personalize a note to each and every homeowner and say, hey, Mr. So-and-so, I came here today. My name is Eric, and I've been in real estate for, since 2005. I met my wife there. I tell them a little bit about myself. I tell them a little bit about Berkshire Hathaway, and I try to educate them as to what's kind of happening in their neighborhood and at their house. They don't care, for the most part, what's going on anywhere else. They care about themselves and their house. That's just human nature, right? That's what all of us feel. So I try to give them as much information without shoving it too much down their throat on day one, so they can. I don't want to have to turn them off on day two when I do have to go back, and I don't want to have to have somebody ask me, "Don't show up here again" or whatever. So I try to take the softest approach I can, because I'm not really the most. How would I say it? I'm not the. I'm not that.
Pushy salesperson.
Yeah, I'm not very aggressive when it comes to that. I try to do it a little bit as a softer tone.
You're going to go back several times.
Got to go back several times. Well, the fewer the better, but I've gone to a house 29 times and finally was able to list it. So if they think of you as some sleazy salesman that's just pushy, it's not going to be possible to go back 29 times, or even 2 times for that matter.
So to quantify your 25 knocks a day, some of them are brand new. Some of them. So when you look at your spreadsheets, you go, okay, so I'm going to look at these 8 new ones today. And since I'm going to be over here, I've been to that one 4 times. I've been to this one 6 times. And you stop by with something different for those people, right?
Right. So another great thing about Berkshire Hathaway is in the resource center. After I take my initial buy-side report, I can't take that every time. Their house isn't going to. There's no different valuation from one week to the next, generally speaking. So there are various flyers that you can tailor to yourself to customize as if you basically created the flyer. As of right now, there are 47 different flyers that I have used over the time that I've been doing this. So the reason I say that is you're not going to run into the same flyer twice. So what I do is make sure to notate. I take great notes, and I do really well when it comes to statistics. So I know based off of each house when I went, what time I went, what happened at that particular time, what I took with me. That way, the 3rd or 4th or 10th time I go down there, I don't have to start guessing this. Did I take this before? Did I say this before? I have something new with me every time. So I bring, even if it's just a small token, a small smidgen of new information, it's new value of information to them each and every time.
Right. Yeah. And I think you told me one time I interviewed at Success Series, you have 29 or 30 different flyers you use out of the VAC?
I've gone up to about 47 now because more have been created since then.
47. Wow. So you never bring anything new. It's always something. I mean, it's never the same. It's always something different.
Right. Which is the reason I can start a conversation and say, hey, I know you saw the last one last week. I saw this one this week, and I just thought you would like to see it. Or maybe you find it interesting. But every time I write a note on there. And
I was going to say, yeah. As one guy listed with you said, he goes, I'm calling you back because all the love notes you left me.
Yeah. And that particular house, believe it or not, was my very first sold listing. I am under contract today on something that has piggybacked off that particular house. I am on my 7th transaction, almost about $2.5 million on just that one house by door knocking. I went to that guy's house 5 times. I am under contract on my 7th one.
Deal with that guy. Yeah.
Because of the guy giving me the opportunity. Yeah.
That's great. And that's the other thing that happens when you're proactive. You have that chain of event that happens, called repeat and referral business, because they know you're a go-getter. They know I wouldn't use the word aggressive, but you're definitely a go-getter. Like you said, you're not that pushy salesperson that tries to talk them into everything, but you just keep showing them through your actions that you're committed to your job and you're going to keep showing up. And if they really want somebody to sell their home, you're the guy.
And I make sure that they understand and they know that. And I will tell you a bad story that, not necessarily a bad story, but when I've not done that, and I decided to go back to this random house that I should have continued to go back, but for whatever reason I didn't. Maybe I was shoot off, or maybe I didn't feel as comfortable. Eventually, that house, sometime sooner rather than later, gets on the market, and it really irks me because I know that if I would have just continued to be me and not let whatever got in the way get in the way, I would have had that one too. Potentially, at least an opportunity. Maybe not, but I would have at least had the opportunity. So I know that if I deviate from my plan, it usually is going to come back and bite me. And it's happened on more than one occasion, as much as I don't want to admit that. I feel like the success rate could have been higher had I just, if I was more aggressive, put it this way, I think I would probably be about 25% more success.
Yeah. And sometimes you just got to read that and, be a little bit more aggressive too. So awesome. Okay. So you did 17 closings your first year. What's your goal this year, and how you doing so far?
My goal was 24, and you and I have probably had this conversation many times. Um, there are agents out there that want to work 10, 12-hour days, 7 days a week, and that's great. And then that works for you, then that's fantastic. And if you're successful, then you know what, more power to you. For me, my family, where the age my kids are today, I just I don't want that necessarily. I'd love to have all the success in the world, but at the cost of not necessarily seeing my kids. For me personally, my family's priority.
Yeah.
Most of us probably feel that way. Sometimes some people let work get in the way. I don't do that. So my goal this year was 24 houses. I
Yep.
was on track for that. By the end of March, I had 8 sold. So I was well on my way. Pandemic hit, and I stayed home for a month for couple reasons. Number one, I didn't know where things were headed and what we're doing, and so I didn't want to be out there, like you said, fear mongering, upsetting the few people that I had, that I was working with, by trying to take advantage of them during an unprecedented time. And number two is I didn't want to really get sick myself, so I didn't really know. I was in uncharted territory, so I stayed home for about a month. I wouldn't say necessarily feeling sorry for myself, but like, what is going to happen, right? That was pretty much April. A little bit into May, and I said, you know what, this is ridiculous. Enough is enough. I'm going to go back, continue doing what I do. Just be careful, be understanding, and be responsive to how people are going to receive your message. If it feels like they just don't want you there, don't go back for a while, or keep your distance, keep your space, and be respectful of others. Just basic human traits, right?
Right.
Luckily for me, I was able to do that. I reached out to the sphere of influence that I now have. I've been in Arizona for a while now. Um, I got another listing. I got another buyer. I got a couple more listings. I got some repeat and referral business. Next thing you know, last time I talked to you, Rick, last week, I was under contract for 7. I've gotten 2 more since last week. So I'm under contract on 9. So once those close, I will still be on track and then some for my 24 for the year. So I could have easily used the pandemic and said, hey, you know what, this is probably not going to work out. I'm going to have to beg this year and hope that I can get them next year. But I decided one morning that I wasn't going to do that for the sake of myself, my family, my job, my peers, everybody who's counting on me, my clients. It's unfair for them for me to take a hiatus when people are counting on me. So
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate that I am in a
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
position.
And let me just tell you, Eric, there's a lot of people watching this today that would love to be on a 24 a year pace. That's good income. You can definitely get by on 24 closings a year where you are. The other thing is what they need to understand is that you don't do open houses, and most of your work is door knocking and then taking the listings. And then most of the sales you make are because you've made somebody homeless, sold their home, and now you've sold them a new home. That's pretty
Yeah.
much most of the buyers you work with too, right?
Right. So right now I'm 63% listings and I'm 37% buyers, which
Pretty
for me is
two
a
to one,
healthy.
pretty much.
Right. For me, it's a healthy dose. At one point, I was hovering around 50-50. Not that that's a bad thing. I just want to have an identity. And at
Yeah.
50-50, you don't necessarily have an identity. You're almost confused as to what you're doing, right? But predominantly, I've mostly done listings.
No,
And that's
as a real estate coach for as long as I've been in my time at the Mike Ferry, if you can be 2 to 1, 2 listings sold, to one buyer sale. That's pretty much the math anyway, because every time you take 2 listings in your area, one of them is going to want to buy in the same market. So every time you take 2 listings, you really have at least 3 deals because you got that one buyer in your listings ready to go once you make them homeless and sell their home.
Right.
Right. Plus, here's something I forgot to mention earlier is, remember, I was at Mike Ferry for years. In my last, I would say my last month coaching, the group I had of 60 agents I coached, the average, because we had a number analyzer, much like we have, that I give you guys if you guys want to use it, but theirs is even a little bit more detailed. The average person in my group had 91 contacts per listing appointment. Okay, so, and those are seasoned agents, been doing it for a long time. So you being at 150 right now is not the end of the world, and that will continue to get better since you started over 400, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. So you get a lot of no's before you get the one, and I guess at first it's a little intimidating to get some no's, but realizing that the yes is under any rock at that point.
Well, compared to, can I have your keys? If I have the keys, you can have the contents. It'll make it so much easier.
It made it, it wasn't as intimidating, but I can totally understand where some agents say it's door knocking's just not for me.
Yeah.
Because even me, the first time I went door knocking, I got halfway up to the driveway, and I pretended pretty much that I forgot something in my car, and I went right back in my car and said, "Oh, I don't want to do this. You got to figure something else out." And then eventually got a little bit more courage, and then went right back, and then that's kind of how that unfolded. So it definitely can be intimidating.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. That's why when you go door knocking, you got to act like I do this all day, every day, and then they treat you that way. Because as soon as you act like you're doing something wrong, people are very helpful. They will treat you like you're doing something wrong. Okay, so to wrap this up, what I want to do, Eric, is I want to ask you the question I ask everybody, which is, okay, knowing what you know now, if I was a brand new agent or if I was an agent trying to take it to the next level, what would be the 3 most important things you would tell me to focus on?
Find your identity to see what exactly you're going to be spending your time, your money, your advertising dollars, whatever it is you're going to do to drive that particular train. So focus on what your identity is. You're going to be a listing agent, you're going to be a buyer's agent. If you want to do both, hey, that's whatever it is you're going to do. Figure that out first. Don't spend too much time. I spent too much time on that. When I say too much time, a few months. The way I initiated what I started now is focus on my canceled expires in my particular neighborhood. The reason I stay within a 15-mile perimeter is because I can service those people. I can continue to go back on a regular basis. They won't forget about me.
Right.
I know the market very well now. I can tell you that neighborhood, what this house goes for square foot. And because I'm only going within a 3-city radius of about 15 miles, so I wouldn't say an expert, but I became a lot more knowledgeable in my particular part of or area that I'm circulating on a regular basis, that it just makes it easier for me to be more knowledgeable so people can now understand, hey, this guy's a little bit more of an expert than probably the last guy I interviewed or whatever. So it definitely helps me quite a bit. Number 3, in my opinion, is probably the most important. Whatever you're doing in life, right? Consistency is probably going to be the most important part of anything you do. Consistency, and it just continue to stay true to yourself. Like I was talking to somebody yesterday, and I said, here's my 10-year plan, here's my, by the time I'm 50-year plan. And they said, well, why don't you do this and this? I said, well, I'd love to do that, but I will not deviate from my plan because I know my plan should be working for me. The moment I start to deviate and start going and venturing into other potential possibilities of grasses, greener grass pastures, is generally when I'll get myself in some trouble. Probably not. But the safest bet for me is to not deviate from my plan, can stay focused, and just be as consistent as you possibly can in the one thing that you're doing.
Yeah,
and that has been great for me.
Yeah, that consistency is, and it just goes to show, like you have an amiable, analytical personality. You think a lot. Okay, you think about everything, and there's a lot of people out there that do that. But you forced yourself to take action, even though that first door knock made you a little bit nervous, and then you stayed consistent. Now you can go door knocking all day, every day without any problems, right?
Absolutely. I door knock. My wife. I always have my briefcase, regardless of where I'm headed. I'm headed to church or the grocery store, and we pass a house that, even with my family, I pass a house that I normally got. I'm like, she doesn't say anything anymore. She already knows if I make an unusual left-hand turn into this random neighborhood, it's because I just passed by a house and I could just, it's going to take me 2 minutes to leave some sort of flyer, leave a contact, and move on with the rest of my day. So I made that a part of my life, knowing that I don't do open houses. I oftentimes don't work the weekends or the evenings. So for me, I have to sell my 24 houses from 8 to 5 if I can. Obviously, that doesn't always happen, but if I stick to my plan and I stick to my course, I think I've been able to do that so far, and I don't think if I haven't changed it. So the moment I change it or tweak it, maybe it won't work in my favor.
Yeah, and just so everybody knows, that's why your goal's 24 and you knock 25 a day. And that's that same math that we've been talking about over and over. You follow that, and it's been working for you. And this year, you're on pace. You'll do it. And let me tell you something. This, Eric, and you probably already have recognized this, the second half of the year is going to be kinder as far as the real estate business goes. Because even with all this going on, and I know Arizona's had some spikes, but even with all this going on, the real estate market is still clipping along. As a matter of fact, we're back to, and in some cases over, the pace we were at, because we're in 4 markets. We're in your market. We're also in the desert of California. We're in Orange County, and we're in Las Vegas. Every one of them is at least, if not over, where it was the week before the pandemic hit, as far as listings taken, transactions, and so forth. And your MLS also will back that up as well. So the second half of the year is going to be, I think, very more kind, easier to do business. And you know what? The real estate market, the economy's coming back. It doesn't care there's a pandemic, although it's serious. And like you said, be careful, be safe, but at the same time, you can work every day. So I just want to say, Eric, any final words?
No.
By the way, I love your Brian Urlacher shirt behind you.
It was customized to me. It says Eric on its autograph. All the stuff I was showing you, I used to work at a place too, and him and the owner were good friends. He would always go in there, and great guy. He's a great guy.
Yeah, like I was telling you, when I first moved to Vegas, the gentleman who lived one building in front of me was Gail Sayers. And it was really cool because the woman that worked the front desks, fiance was from Chicago. So she asked him, if I order a 48 jersey and have it sent here, like an official jersey of the Bears, will you sign it? And then she had it framed and gave it to him for Christmas. Oh my God. He was a super guy. I really rode the elevator with him a few times. Really nice guy. Will tell you stories. Most of these sports guys, I think, are really easy to deal with outside of. I even had Pete Rose. I was in the elevator with Pete Rose a couple of times. He's hilarious.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, my man. Well, keep that sports room going. And your new quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo, I like him a lot. He's had some good training.
Well, hey, you know what? That's absolutely true, which is why we like. He's consistent. He's come from one of the best backgrounds in sports history as far as coach. So
he never lost a game for the Patriots. I think he started 5 games total, and he never lost a game before. That was the year that Tom Brady was suspended for 4 games and then came back and we won the Super Bowl. I actually have a shirt that says "Vindicated," number 12. All right.
For the opportunity, Rick. I appreciate that.
All right, buddy. You're the best. I really appreciate you. Keep doing what you do. And just so everybody knows, too, Eric's also been in my coaching for a while, and he's in a great group of 4. So if you want to join my coaching, folks, don't forget to talk to your managers. Eric, thank you very much. Paul, thank you very much. And we'll do it again. We have a room full of people applauding you. Can you imagine this?
Oh, wow.
Thanks, Eric.
Nice. Thanks, guys.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Have a good day.